As you probably guessed from the title, today we're talking about the impossible. What is the impossible? Well, anything worth doing seems impossible. That is, if it's out of your comfort zone, what you've already done, and what you're used to, then it can feel out of reach. Something that other people can do, but you can't do. And the farther out of your comfort zone, the more true that becomes. Haven't ever physically trained before? Then training for a marathon is gonna feel impossible. Struggling with social anxiety? Then confidently speaking on stage feels impossible. Struggling with reading? Then teaching yourself math is going to feel way impossible. And it gets worse the higher the level. So if you can't run one marathon, doing 7 marathons in 7 days sounds insane. But some people can do it. So why is that? Well, if you're open to change and a little challenge, there is a way to change the impossible to inevitable. And it's not this whole complicated thing. It's actually simple procedural steps. So, here's what you can do. First, maybe you need to start with changing your mindset. And that's not going to, oh, I can absolutely do it. I'm so confident. No. What you need to do is move from I can't to maybe. It's a neutral mindset. And I say this because a lot of times when you get on the internet, there's all these hype up videos and they talk about believe in yourself, believe you can. But if you've never done it before, then that's an unfounded belief. And your brain's gonna pick up on that lie. So you can tell yourself that all you want, but your brain won't really believe it. Versus if you tell yourself, maybe I can, and well, why not me? It could be possible, then that your brain is more likely to accept and internalize because it is a truthful statement. It is possible for you to do this. It might not seem very probable, but it is possible. So that's what you want to do with fixing your mindset. Because if you keep thinking it is impossible, then your brain's going to make that a reality. And you won't be, you're inhibiting yourself. You're stopping yourself before you even start. So you start with mindset, you start with maybe, and just whenever the thought pops to your head, I can't do this, think, well, maybe I can. Every day you think, maybe I can. Why not me? And you keep repeating it until it becomes a habit to think that way. So this is opening up the possibility, which is the first step. Second step is recon. Again, we don't want to necessarily overdo this. If you have a tendency like me to get really excited in the beginning, you want to, sprint because you're so excited. That's not necessarily the most helpful because it's easy to burn out if you go all in at the beginning and you look at all the things that you can do and then you freak yourself out. So, but you do also need to have an idea what you need to do. You need to know where you're going. So, you might lean towards the I want to run in blind, and you need to learn to do a little more recon, and you might lean towards the I get super, super excited, and then you need to dial back a little bit. You don't want to get too far ahead of where you're capable of necessarily, because you need to test your theories. Okay, and when we're doing recon, we want to focus on awareness of the process of what it takes. So we're looking for who has done it, what does it look like, what did they do every day and over time, and how did they think about the problem? What was their mindset? What was their problem-solving techniques? So this is going to create a baseline to build your plan. First, we got the mindset, now we got a baseline. Third, we got reminder. So what you want to do is make a physical reminder where you will see it daily. And I also haven't seen this talked about very much. It's going to feel very small, but it actually is incredibly powerful. And I've done this for myself, so I can speak to it. What this does is it subconsciously trains your brain every day to think about it. It reminds you of it so that you don't have to keep firing yourself up, I guess, because you have a physical thing that does it for you. A great example of this is your bed. Your bed reminds you of sleep and relaxing. And so every time you walk by your bed, you think, oh, I'd love to sleep. I'd love to relax. Every time you walk by, you think that. And so if you're around your bed a lot, you probably are going to be thinking a lot about relaxing, sleeping, and chilling out. And it's a psychological phenomena. You have external triggers. Basically, you're using that to your advantage to get where you want to go. So now that that's out of the way, you need a physical reminder. Ideally, you want to put it where you will study and or train, whatever you want to do. That also helps with association. If the bed is where you sleep, that helps. If the desk is where you study, put your books there. And you also want whatever the physical reminder is to actually encapsulate your end goal in words or pictures. That helps for visualization, and also bonus points if it somehow has your why. So this creates direction to point your focus and reminds you every day. One example of this is vision boards. They're a useful tool. They're not a magic fix, but they're a useful tool for reminding you of what your goal is and why you want to go there. A calendar can also work because you write down what your to-dos are. So if you just write down your goals on your wall calendar, that can also be a good choice. Or maybe if you have like a little trophy or figurine of what you're aiming for, like if you want to be a martial arts master, a little martial arts figurine, maybe that'll work for you. I don't know. It depends on what works for you. But this is going to create direction to point your focus. All right, so we've got our mindset, we've got our baseline, and now we have focus. Okay, now we get to the good stuff, the methodology. The planning. So this you want to keep small. Do 1 week at a time to start, and include where, how long, what you will do, and how you will measure growth. You don't necessarily want to overdo this because you're going to have to change it anyway because you've never trained this before. So again, this can be easy to overdo and gas out at the beginning. If you're really excited, you start planning like 4 weeks in advance, 8 weeks in advance. Or maybe you're someone who leans towards the I never make a plan and I like to improvise, and that's not going to be great either, because the trick with the plan is it's testing what works to get you where you want to go. Like what actual steps, in what order, what place you're going to do them, how long you're going to do them. You're literally mapping that out and then testing if it works, and then assessing at the end of the week, did this work? Or at least, did it move me closer to my goal? And based on what happens, that's going to help tell you what works. And so you keep what was helpful, and then you tweak what may not have been as helpful. So, for example, if you have a plan, I'm going to work out after school for 30 minutes, and then every single time you're late because the bus ran late, then you know at the end of the week that you need to move it out a little bit, or move it out further in the day a little bit, maybe by 10 minutes or 20 minutes, because the bus is going to make you run late, and so it's shrinking your practice time. So this is going to create structure to shape your energy and point your actions to your direction, which, as we covered in the previous step, is pointed by your goals. Last but not least, action. So this is the big moment where you actually start doing it. Now that you've prepped everything, you've got your mindset, you've got your baseline and your direction and your structure. Now it's time to actually do something, which is going to be very small because you just started and you don't know what you're doing. But all of this prep work is going to make your action when you finally start a lot more impactful. So you're testing your plan based on your direction and your baseline, and you're not inhibited by constant thoughts of, oh, what if I can't do it? What if this doesn't work? What is this? Blah, 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 blah. You're just figuring it out. And so you take the first week, you do the plan, and try not to like overschedule every day. 30 minutes to an hour max, I would say, if you've just started, unless this is like crunch time. But generally, if you're starting something new, 30 minutes to an hour is a decent goal. If you're really busy, 5 to 10 minutes, that works great. And you're going to just do the thing, see what works, see how your body-mind responds, and work with that. And I say it that way because you will perform below your expectations. If you've tried learning something before, you do know this. You're going to be very familiar with this process. If you haven't, you might be a little disappointed that you don't magically start like racking out essays or do like 30 push-ups in 2 minutes. Your expectations are always going to be higher. Unless you're like really pessimistic, then they're lower. But usually we believe we can do better than we can do because we observe other people doing better. And then we think, well, that's what it looks like. That's what it looks like after months or a year of practice. So you're going to perform below your expectations, and that is a good thing because it means you are challenging yourself and you are learning something new and you are growing, and not just in that skill, in other areas like planning and grit and persistence. And so the important thing here is once you start taking action, you don't stop when you get disappointed, when you get upset, because you will. It will be frustrating at times. You'll want to improve faster than you do. And you just stick to the plan. You get to the end of the week. You assess what's working and what isn't. And you work from there. And the important thing is you keep trying and you keep reflecting, because this is going to create movement towards your goal, no matter how small, and over time, it creates momentum towards your goal. The movement builds each day, each week, that you do a little bit more, that you just stick to the plan. And this is going to, I don't know if I want to say optimize, but I'm going to say optimize. This is going to optimize your progress from the beginning because you've already prepared yourself for the challenge. When you get disappointed, you have your recon to fall back on of what are you aiming for, what are next steps. When you have bad days, you're not feeling good, you have a physical reminder of, well, I feel bad, but this is what I want to do and this is why I want to do it. You have a structure for when you start getting really busy. You get like midterms and finals, or if you're at work, you might be having like very busy work week, and you just have that nice structure. And so that all supports your actions, and then your actions support everything else, because as you do things, even if you do the same thing over and over again, you learn from that and you reflect and you get better. And so that is going to turn something that seemed impossible before, by breaking everything down and building a foundation up, to point to it becoming inevitable. It might take a long time. It totally might. It depends on what you're trying to do, but you will get there. Well, I hope this helps. As I said before, I have done this before. I've been experimenting with this for about a year or two, so I can say that it does definitely work. It does take practice to get better at implementing it, because each time you get better at recon research and stuff. If you'd like me to share some examples of using this and how to do it better, I guess, just leave a comment below. And if you do this as well, feel free to share how you used it. I would love to hear what you guys are doing. And remember, be brave, be strong, be kind, and be the change that you want to see. Bye!